Lawna. Like we said in our last video, today I am going to be telling you my story of recovery. I have been in recovery for 3 years. It will be 3 years in September, and it's been a long journey for me. It hasn't been linear. I haven't stayed sober that entire time, but I am now coming up to 2 months sober. My main addiction was to alcohol. I didn't really dabble in drugs too much, so you won't find that in my story, but hopefully you'll be able to relate to the emotions that I had, the feelings that I had about myself and the world that I was living in, and also what drove me to find recovery. So let's get to it. I started struggling with alcohol from a very young age. I was about 13 when it really took hold of my life, and from the very beginning it was an issue. So when I was 12, I had a sexual assault that happened that led me into an eating disorder, and at that time I was diagnosed with anorexia because I dropped weight pretty severely and was going into starvation mode, and my organs were shutting down. My mom at the time didn't really know how to deal with that, so I had to go into an inpatient eating disorder treatment, and before doing this they had to place a G-tube. So that basically allowed food to be pumped into my system so that they could force feed me in order to be weight restored. That is how I started drinking. I had, during that time, found pro-ana, pro-nia blogs online that had tips and tricks on how to feed your eating disorder. And there was this one documentary I watched, and this woman would binge eat and then suck all the excess out through her G-tube. And my 13-year-old brain went, wow, that's amazing. I could do this with alcohol. I had had a few sips of alcohol here and there and really hated the taste. I knew that I liked the warming effect, the no care effect, but I just really hated the taste. So that's when I started injecting vodka into my G-tube. It would go directly into my system. Once I started feeling the effects, I would suck it back out so that I wouldn't gain the calories, and my eating disorder was fed that way. Very unsafe. I really hope anyone out there who has a G-tube will not take advice from me saying this and use it to engage in behavior. It's very dangerous, and your life is at risk when you do that. So with that being said, from 13 to 17, I had this G-tube, and that's how I drank. I was consistently drinking and became an everyday drinker during this time. And by age 17, I was physically dependent on alcohol. The thing about it was, I was putting it into my G-tube so I did not smell like alcohol, and people started to think that this was just who I was. The way that I was acting was just who I was. I became increasingly depressed throughout my teenage years. I had a few suicide attempts, and I also was very isolated. I would go to school when I wanted to go to school, do the work that I wanted to do, and kind of manipulate the system so that I could get my way and I could just live in my alcoholism. At 17, I came to Toronto and went to college, and this is where I needed to amp up my addiction and how I was dealing with it. The G-tube got removed, so now that I was physically dependent, I had to start orally drinking, and that looked unlike anyone else that was in my school and who I was partying with. So eventually I just stopped drinking with other people, and I would wait until I would get home, or I would just carry enough alcohol with me throughout the day so I wouldn't get the shakes and I wouldn't start going into DTs. Throughout my 20s, alcoholism was prevalent, and I don't think I'll go into it too much today about what that looked like, but by age 27, I knew that I needed to just stop. There was so many traumatic events that happened as a result of my alcoholism. I was in relationships I shouldn't have been in. My eating disorder was out of control again. My OCD had spiked because of my alcoholism. There was all these issues that I just couldn't control anymore that used to be controlled through my alcohol consumption. It used to give me this no care attitude. I used to fix everything, but now I was physically ill, but I couldn't stop. I wanted so badly to stop. So I went to treatment. And I went to treatment in Toronto. I went to a 30-day program, and it was very helpful. I went in with a mindset of, I'm going to do everything I can during this time to get better. I don't care what anyone else is doing in the house. I don't care what their mission is. I'm doing this for me. I made a few friends during this time that I'm still in contact with, which has been really nice. A few of these women along the way have passed away from their addictions, and a few of them have just kind of fallen off the radar. But since that time, it was August 3 years ago, I have been in a 12-step recovery program. And although I have not remained abstinent during that time, I have always been in the fellowship, and my main objective is to stay abstinent. I know that it's the only way of life for me. Relapse is a part of my story, but it does not have to be a part of anyone's story. If you give yourself to a simple program or to the self-care that sobriety takes, it is possible to just eliminate alcohol or drugs from your life. Like I was saying, recovery has not been linear for me. So when I get sober and take away alcohol, all the other issues that I have creep up on me. So my control issues, my workaholic issues, my eating disorder, my OCD, they are all still there, and I struggle deeply with them, even more so when I stopped drinking. So in the last 2 months, I've really been addressing those issues, and it's something that I'd like to talk more about you guys with in the future, about how I'm combating that and what that looks like in my daily life. It's been an incredible journey, and I have gone from a place where I was so physically ill, mentally ill, spiritually bankrupt, broken, financially run out. I just had no hope. I was in a hopeless state of being. And today I have light in my eyes, I have light in my life, and I have a lot of people surrounding me that are just on the right path. They have figured out what really makes them love life again, and it has nothing to do with drugs and alcohol, and it has nothing to do with external factors. It has to do with their internal condition. It's a beautiful thing. So I think I'll leave it at that for now, and thank you for watching.